we are going to try to make a map embroidery. I think this would be a really nice idea as a gift for a loved one of a place maybe you grew up together, or the holidays you like going on together somewhere special, or your hometown, something like that. So I've got my map, and this is going to be part of my postcards project. So this map is going to be in a book of postcards of important places that have had an impact on my life. And this is a map of where I went to university. And I decided to do a map because it was quite in the middle of nowhere. There wasn't really any interesting architecture or a popular sort of location that's instantly recognizable. So I decided to do a map. And this is the first time I'm doing a map embroidery. So we will figure it out as we go along. This is a map just printed off Google Maps. We've got a nice green area that I'm going to embroider. We've got a river going through it, main road and sort of smaller roads, which I'm going to do in different colours to try and add a bit of colour and interest to the map. And we've got a train track going through it as well. So I think it's hopefully going to be an interesting embroidery to look at, and for me it has a sort of a personal story to it. So I've got my fabric that I'm going to use. You can almost see it through, but what I'm going to do is I have a light box. So with a sharp pencil I'm just going to very lightly draw out the main bits that I want to use. If you don't have a light box, that's absolutely fine. You can just hold it against a window, or you could use carbon paper that I've used before. That's quite a good way. But I'm going to put the main points of interest, so the patches of green, the river and the roads that I want on the map. On the back of my postcard I'm going to do a print. So I could very easily sort of sew black lines. But I thought I might try printing on fabric as a new sort of technique to try out. So I have some ink and a little roller, and I'm just going to go over the bits that I want to go up here on the back. And I also have a stamp fabric. So the back is going to look like a postcard. I'm going to put the place there, maybe the dates that I was there. And here I might put sort of a quote that was important to me at the time, or a memory, or just a little wish you were here type sentiment. But you don't have to make a postcard. Your map could be just a nice piece of embroidery that you give someone. So first step is getting the image onto the cloth. Decided I was going to use carbon paper. So I have done a video recently on how to use carbon paper. It's quite, I've only just started using it, but it is quite easy. So I trimmed my map down. I've got my fabric in place, then the carbon paper, then the picture that I'm going to go around. I've got a sharp tool, but you could just use a pencil or a pen with a lid on it. I'm just going to take some time to draw out the things that I want on the map. let's have a look. There you go, so it actually does just look like pencil, but it's there. And you keep hold of your photo to just keep looking at your references. My map is coming along really nicely, but you can see that all the main features are there. I've also added a little bit of smaller details. There is some small bits of blue that I want to add in a couple of areas as well. Now I was going to fill all this in with stitches, but I think it actually looks quite good without, so it's all just line embroidery. I might add a little bit of watercolour here, just really pale in sections. If you are going to watercolour, it's best to do it before you're stitching, but I've decided to change the direction a little bit. So this has come together quite quickly, so if you're in need of a thoughtful gift in a bit of a hurry, this might be something you consider. You could do the place where you first met someone, your hometown. I was also thinking you could do maps from books, so if someone's a big fan of Lord of the Rings or something, you could do a map for them. Now I'm going to carry on and turn it into a postcard, so what we're going to do now is just print our postcard on with ink. Again, you could just sew all this, you don't have to bring in other things like ink and watercolours. But I'm still in my experimental phase, so I like to try new things out. So I've got like a stamp and an ink pot. I have tried it a little bit, so I know it's going to work. So I'm just going to add some new ink here. And it's alright if it comes out a little bit faded or not quite 100% in some places. That is the look of a stamp, and that's what I'm aiming for. I'm just going to take off a little bit of this to lower the risk of getting it where we don't want it. You can't really hesitate with it because if you move it around slightly then you will get smudging, which you don't want. So just put it on, press it down, take it off again. I potentially should have got a little roller, clean one, to roll it over, but I'm just going to use my hands to press down. Right, here we go. There we go. It is a little bit faded in some areas, but I'm okay with that. I won't try doing it again because again you might not put it in exactly the right place. If you don't want to make a postcard, you're just going to do a map, you could just leave it in the hoop to frame it, or put it in a square frame, might be quite nice. Or if you do want to make a double-sided embroidery with something else on the back, like a special personal message, either use one big piece of cloth and fold it and just sew around the edges, or use a second piece of cloth which you sew onto the back. But that might be quite nice to give a personalised map to someone with a special message on the back. So I'm just using my watercolours that are just bog standard normal watercolours, just tested a little bit on the back. So I think the colour is fine, just need to keep it sort of wet. So I'm going to keep wetting it and keep sort of blending it in. Thought it would immediately bleed out of the space, but it's actually okay. So the coloured water definitely works better than trying to paint it on. So I'm going to still try and blend that bit in a bit. Here is my finished map. Added a little bit of extra detail of some waterworks, some little streets, and the name of the local train station where I used to live, around about here. I am really pleased with how this worked out. I think there's just enough interest to make people sort of look and go, oh, what is that? Where is that? And now let's have a look at the back, because I made it into a postcard. Yeah, there's a little bit of a fading to the stamp that I used, but that's okay because we are talking many years ago when I lived at this place. I attached a stamp. I did a quote. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Kind of sums up those university years. I'm going to make it into a little book of all the places that I've lived. Each one is going to have a different postcard, probably a different style. So I've done a map, I'm going to do some landscapes, and they're all going in the little book. So subscribe to see the rest of this project taking shape.